2024, and congratulations to all of you who showed up here this morning to go up in your business. Way to go. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Scott Sommer with Sommer of Associates for this Success Factor program this morning. Scott will be sharing on SWOT analysis and forming an action plan to address those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that every one of you face in your business, either as an owner or as a business professional. Scott currently serves on your Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce Board and Fountain Hills Chamber Foundation Board. He has been extremely active in the community since his return to Fountain Hills 13 years ago. Today, Scott taps into his 30-plus years in the service industry to help companies enjoy the success that comes with having a quality service delivery model. Scott firmly believes in the significance of knowing your place in the market and is looking forward to explaining how that can be easily achieved by using a set of skills that he will share with us today. I'd like to share that Scott has been gracious to donate his time to us this morning. However, he has a firm commitment. He's catching a plane this morning, and he needs to promptly exit this door at 9:45 a.m. Scott will be giving his presentation, and we will allow time for questions before he must leave. So I ask you all to be conscientious of the time this morning so that Scott can depart on time and catch that flight. So everyone, please help me welcome Scott Sommer.
Thank you. Thank you. Who wrote that?
Yeah.
It's always good. Hi, Karen. How are you? Thank you for being here. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I know it takes time out of your day to be here. My hope is that we walk out of here in about 45 minutes with some additional skills and know-how that you can apply today to your own businesses to really drive profitability. That's what this entire series is about, and that's specifically what we're going to be talking about this morning. So, that all being said, by show of hands, now understand, for the next 45 minutes, there are no wrong answers. There are only topics of discussion, and I truly mean that. That being said, by show of hands, who here today knows their own place in their markets in which they serve? Do you truly know your place in the market? You guys are...
I'm scared to raise my hand.
No. PJ, do you know your place in the market?
I think I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How?
How do I know it?
Yeah.
Years of experience in going down rabbit holes and finding my niche. Is that the right answer?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's perfect. So everyone here, this is the room to be in, because we're going to talk about how to really put yourself in the spot where you do understand where you are in the market in which you serve. The SWOT analysis is 4 main components, as Kristen mentioned. It's identifying your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. So this is sometimes a challenge for all of us to do as business owners, because we really have to get into the heart of our business, and we have to sometimes make some really difficult observations and come to a personal admission of, hey, there are some things that we just are not doing well, or that I'm not doing well, and we need to highlight those to put them into action to resolve them. The SWOT analysis is generally illustrated by 4 quadrants, okay? Is this the right way? It is for some people, and it's not the right way for other people. At the end of the day, when we're going through these exercises, it does not matter how you get there, just as long as you get there. And I'm going to show a couple different examples of what the end result of this can look like. But effectively, we're starting off with a large piece of paper, 4 squares, and we're listing our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and our threats. To get to that information takes a lot of people. And that's really, really important. And through my experience, in going through a number of these in the past, one of the biggest pitfalls that we've come across is not having the right people at the table to make sure that we're filling out all of these as effectively as possible. What you end up with is an example like this. This is a SWOT analysis that was completed for a logistics company. And they went through and listed all the strengths that they identified, their opportunities, their weaknesses, and their threats. My recommendation when it comes to compiling this information, if you are a sole proprietor, how many are sole proprietors here? Quite a few, okay. We've got one corporate and another sole proprietor, nonprofit. So one of the things that's really, really important when you're compiling this information, your customers are your biggest asset. They are the ones that experience the service that you are providing. So it is absolutely imperative when you're going through this exercise to make sure that you are talking to your customers and just say, hey, why do you keep coming back? Or potentially more difficult, why haven't you been back? That's really, really important. Has anybody actually reached out to a customer to say, why have I not seen you in 6 months? You've done that.
Just did it yesterday.
And who did it yesterday? How did it go?
Well, it was an email.
Okay.
Email marketer.
Hey.
But there were some people that didn't respond to a certain thing that I had put out there that I thought they were like a perfect fit for.
Okay.
And so I was just like, just let me know why you hesitated or didn't book a call or, you know, that was yesterday, so I haven't seen the email back yet, but I just figured it's worth the try to find out.
Yeah.
I was hesitating, you know, why would they not respond to it? Because I thought it was a perfect fit.
Sure. Do you recall how you closed out that communication? What was your closing line to get them to, what was your call to action?
Probably something for the father.
I was gonna say.
Hey, I'm looking to learn you too.
Yeah. I just asked why they hesitated, you know, just, you know, if you just give me some feedback, I'd really appreciate it, just to help me out.
Okay. Anybody else have an example?
One of the things that we do in our classes is at the end, we hand out our certificates, and Josh has no shame. He's like, if you thought this was a 5-star class, please go on Google and give us a 5-star review if you have time. If you don't think it was a 5-star review, please contact us and let's have a chat to find out why it was not. Don't blast us on social media.
Right.
Give us a chance to make it right. And we kind of pride ourselves on making sure they understand everything before they leave. But that's the nature of our,
Sure.
business.
So are you connecting those dots between, so your call of action was to leave a review,
Yeah.
and obviously, I'm gonna make the assumption that you're verifying that reviews are being left and you're addressing each one of them individually, so do you ever connect those dots and see who did leave a review? And just quick touch base, say,
I can tell you, well, Josh handles all that, so I don't know that but if I had to put a percentage on it, we might, out of 15 people, we might get 2 or 3 reviews like that day, and then sometimes they'll trickle in.
Yeah.
But we might get, if I had to put a percentage, we might have like 10-20% of the people in each class give us a review.
okay,
And we're okay with that. We're not kind of having everyone to give us one, but
Yeah.
we'll at least get a 5-star review out of it.
perfect. So those kinds of touch points with your customers are gonna help establish almost anything that's on here. It's going to bring to forefront the strengths. Hey, I love the program. This is specifically what I loved about it. I thought it was a waste of time. I thought it was a waste of money. Whatever it might be. Those are all things that can be put into place into your SWOT analysis. Very, very important. Don't forget, for those of you that are in the corporate environment, don't forget about your internal customers. That's very, very important. The SWOT analysis is oftentimes used exclusively in the corporate or the business environment. And reality is, yes, that is a very important place that it can be used. This analysis process can be used in any environment. And I can think of 3 examples where I have used it, and they've all been different examples. The first one, I was with a Fortune 500 company by the name of Cardinal Health, and We were working in a distribution center, and we had to go through this process because we were running out. We were failing to meet our customer goals, service delivery goals, because we had outgrown our space. So we actually went through this process because the first thought is, okay, you outgrow your building, well, just go buy another building. And true, that's simple, but where do you buy it? We're in the middle of Tempe, which is a great area to be. We have long tenured staff. We can't move too far. Property is very, very cheap out of the west side. So we weigh all of these different factors. If we move to the west side, we'll save a ton on the building expense, but we're going to lose a ton of intellectual capital because a lot of the employees are not going to want to commute because we've been in this on the east side for such a long period of time. That was a very useful exercise in really determining where do we put this building. So now we're taking one concept within a Fortune 500 company and we're running it through this process to make sure that we can make the best decision possible. More recently, I actually used this process. I was sitting on a committee at a local church, and we actually used this process when the lead pastor announced that he was going to be retiring from the church, and we wanted to make sure that this church continued into the future. So we pulled a committee of members of the body together, and we ran through this process very, very specifically. What do we do really, really well as a church? Ooh, what don't we do well? Or what are we just downright bad at? And there were some really difficult conversations that were had. I can distinctly remember them. But you learn from them. It brings them to the forefront so that you can now address them through an action plan. And then most recently, I was a sole proprietor. If you remember, a number of years ago, there was a very small heating and air conditioning company in Fountain Hills called ProForce Heating and Air Conditioning. That was me. I was a sole proprietor. We were in a long-range plan with a much larger organization called Pro Skill Services up in Anthem. And we decided to bring heating and air conditioning services to Fountain Hills, but bring it in under a different brand because we couldn't provide all of the services that ProSkill was offering. So we said, hey, to avoid confusion, let's bring it in under another brand. We'll call it ProForce. We'll just do heating and air conditioning. We won't do plumbing. We won't do electrical. And everyone's going to understand exactly what we're doing crystal clear. That did not work well at all. It ended up being an issue because the ProForce brand grew so very quickly. We had to accelerate that plan, and it grew faster than we were anticipating. So we had to basically, in a matter of weeks, pull the plan forward to merge the companies back together. And in doing that process, we went through this analysis to make sure that we understood we're already on the brink, not being able to provide that service level that all of our customers have come to. How do we bridge this gap? How do we make sure that everybody understands that they're going to get a seamless transition? We run it through the SWOT analysis, and we get a list of everything that we need to be working on. So those are some examples that I have used personally. Has anybody here done a SWOT analysis? By show of hands. You have? Debbie? Julie? Julie, can I call on you?
Not really, but.
Okay. Tell me, where did you do the SWOT analysis at?
I've done the SWOT analysis in several different areas of my life.
Okay.
Most recently would be in our Four Peaks Rotary Club. When I came on as president, I did a SWOT of where we are today and where we're going to be heading for our next years in this community.
Awesome. Do you feel, are you finished with that exercise, or are you still actively involved in it?
I think we're active.
Okay. Do you feel that you're getting the results that you had hoped to get?
100%.
Okay. So it sounds like the process went very, very well for you.
Perfectly, in my opinion.
Okay.
But ask the others.
Okay. Fair enough. That's where it comes.
Making progress. They should be happy.
That's where it's really
The trend
important.
line is going this way, so that's all positive.
nothing's crashing or staying the same, that's good.
Yeah, who else has gone through it?
And then when Jeff Stack gets on board, woo,
Yeah.
team morning.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Who else has gone through the internet? Debbie, tell me,
I used
what was the
to,
setting?
once upon a time, I worked for an international women's organization, and my job was to go to the different states and work with their membership committees.
Okay.
And we did spots for them.
Okay,
Some went better than others, mainly because it's a volunteer organization, and
Yeah.
everybody at the table was a volunteer. So some people are more committed as a volunteer than others.
sure.
And when you know, because our job was to help them come up with their very own plan, and then to go back and help them track what was happening when they've got people cycling through the different offices and, officer positions.
Yeah,
So it was very good and it was very bad depending on the team input.
yeah. So one of the keys to success that I always share with the people that I work with is, my opinion is the number one key to success is making sure that you have the right person in the right job at the right time. And if you don't have that, it's going to create challenges. When you're going through your SWOT analysis, there are some things that are very, very important to be aware of and to be mindful of. Not being specific is probably the first and foremost, okay? You have to balance that without getting into too much detail and it ending up being a complete run-on item that's in one of your quadrants. So very specific is what you want listed in each one of those quadrants. Not including the key stakeholders in the process. I talked about this earlier. When you go through this process, and it can take some time. It's not unusual for these to go on for weeks, okay? Depending upon how complex the organization is. So you have to make sure that you have those key stakeholders involved in the mix, because that information is invaluable to putting this analysis together. And I think, Julie, this is where you were headed, not coming back to it. A lot of people will complete their SWOT analysis, and then it goes into a drawer. And we did it, awesome. In many cases, that can be a living document, because what that SWOT analysis does is it turns into your action, it feeds into your action plan. So it should be something that is continuously visited. Some people in the corporate world will refer to it as a living document. All that means is make sure that it is out in front of everybody. And if you're in an organization where there's multiple people, make everybody aware. It's really, really important that everybody in your organization understands the results or what came out of your SWOT analysis. And then kind of similar, not acting on it or not applying what you've learned. Same thing. You go through all this work, it's kind of like showing up to work and not paying yourself. It just doesn't make a ton of sense. Make sure that you are using the document and that you're learning from it and you're taking advantage of all those takeaways. Your SWOT analysis is now complete. So where do you go with it? What do we do with it? We need to turn that analysis into action. That is the other piece of what we're going to be talking about this morning. Turning it into action does a number of things. You mitigate your risk. Your weaknesses and your threats that you identified on your SWOT analysis, those are risks. They are absolutely risks. And it's very important to make sure that those are mitigated by putting a plan together. You're plugging those holes to make sure that you can stop the flood of information. You also want to capitalize on your success. There is no shame in celebrating what you do well. When I was with ProScale Services, we delivered service well. We always told the employees, we are a service company first. First and foremost, we're a service company. Second, we do heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electrical services. But we have to deliver service first. That's what we do really well. That's what we're known for. And then it puts what you've learned into practical steps to success. two most important considerations when you're creating an action plan. Understand, walk with me here for a minute. Begin with the end in mind. You almost want to work backwards. So out of your SWOT analysis, you are going to get action items that will become goals. So you want to start at that goal and then work up and figure out what needs to happen along the way so that I reach that goal.
And when it needs to happen.
And when. Specific and measurable. What doesn't get measured doesn't get done. It's very, very simple. What should your plan include? This is a topic of debate in many organizations. Reality is, and I'm going to show you an example, it's a broad example. Your action plan needs to include characteristics that are beneficial to each one of your organizations. However, there are some fundamental ones. Obviously, what the actual task item is, what the objective is, we need to know what that is. Who is taking responsibility for that action item? That's going to be a big one. Ownership is huge when you're working through your action plan. Unfortunately, as sole proprietors, oftentimes, it's your name, all the way down the list. And that's okay. Priority. You're going to find that out of your SWOT plan, there's going to be a lot of information on there. There should be a lot of information on there. How do you prioritize it? What needs to get done first? And what needs to get done second, third, fourth, so on and so forth. When does it start and when does it complete? And is it dependent on prior tasks? Sometimes we have interdependencies between the tasks that are on our action plan. This is a big one that gets missed. I see a lot. I've seen a lot over the years, and that's what resources are needed. You'll put an action item down. I need to get this widget created and ready for distribution by the end of the year. Many people forget about resources. First and foremost, budget. Sometimes addressing these task items require money or capital. So it's very, very important that you take that into consideration when you are creating your action plan. What risks could you possibly face in any one of these individual action items? It's very, very important to understand that. The last thing you want to do is create another problem while trying to solve the first one. So think about all the risks and anything that could go wrong, and then constant evaluation and monitoring. Now, these two items, as I mentioned, these are the two things that are missed most when people put their action plan together. So make sure you keep that in mind. Resources. Is it people? Is it money? What is it going to take for you to achieve that particular action item? This is a very rudimentary action plan, okay? And it talks about all of the things that we've outlined in the previous slide. There are fantastic pieces of software that will build action plans for you. We use it here at the chamber. Are we still using Monday?
Yes.
Okay, and how's that working?
Fantastic.
It's a wonderful piece of software. Is it free?
No.
No. It's not free. If you're in a larger organization, you might be in a situation where you can make that type of investment. There's a ton of software packages out there that will create action plans for you. If you have Microsoft Excel and you know how to use it, or if you have Google Sheets, which is legitimately free to use, those are the two that I recommend using. Believe it or not, I use Google Sheets exclusively, and I use it for a number of reasons. If you are not familiar, and Betsy, maybe we should actually maybe talk about this, it just came to mind, but within Google Sheets, you can format all of your data, you can sort it, you can filter it based off of the start date, the end date, who it's been assigned to. You can do so much within that particular application. One of the things that I like, because I'm a very visual learner, is I use a function within Google Sheets called conditional formatting. And if you're not familiar with conditional formatting, maybe we'll do a follow-up on how some of this works. But for me, what I do on my conditional formatting, relative to due date, I have it change color as that due date gets closer, so that when I'm working my action plans, every morning when I pull it up, I can do an immediate scan, and I know anything that's showing up red requires my attention. Same thing with the risk. I can visually see, and it does it all in the background. It's all seamless. Very, very easy to use. I really recommend, if you're just starting off with this action plan, start off basic. Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, they both effectively do the same thing. One's free, one has nominal charge to it. What questions? We covered a lot of material in a very quick period of time. How are we doing that time?
We're good, 9:25.
Okay, perfect. So how many in the room, out of curiosity, has done anything as far as creating an action plan? Not necessarily as a result of a SWOT analysis. You've done an action plan?
All the time.
All the time. What are you typically actioning?
Things I have to do for the week.
Okay.
I prioritize on what needs to be done.
Okay.
I do it in my job.
Okay.
Who I have to see, because I have certain times that I have to, I'm with hospice.
Okay.
I have people coming on board.
Yep.
That I have to see within certain days, and all of a sudden my schedule for the week is screwed. I do use Microsoft Excel.
Okay.
I do colorize.
Yep.
Who I have to see monthly, who I see bi-monthly, and who I see weekly.
Yep.
And then I add my dates when I see them.
Yep.
By month, and then when I have to do my bi-monthly report, I just go right there and my dates are there and I can complete it, so.
Pretty convenient. Yeah, you solve a lot of tasks all at once by
Right,
doing
and a
it
lot
that
of
way.
time trying to think, well, when did I see them? And
Yep.
stuff like that.
Awesome. Someone else? Who else is doing an action plan?
My action plan
Yes.
today,
Yes.
I need a better action plan.
Are you
Thank you.
doing an action plan right now? Of any form or fashion?
My schedule.
Fine, that's an action plan.
Yes.
That is an action plan.
And I need to do better. So this is good.
Don't beat yourself up over it. Because you know what? There's a lot of people out there that literally aren't even doing that. So you're already ahead of the game. Biggest thing to remember when you're creating that action plan, you can modify it. It's yours or it's your organization's. It doesn't necessarily have to stay in one particular format. Change it up.
Changes all the time.
If it's not suiting your needs, you know, make your action plan work for you. You don't work for the action plan. It's very simple. It's a tool. What questions can I answer?
I have a general question about Google Sheets.
Yep.
Did you like self-teach, or do you recommend a place to go, like YouTube videos or Google tutorials or whatever?
So there's a couple different, obviously Google Sheets was never really intended to create an action plan, for example. Okay, so depending upon what you're looking to get out of Google Sheets, if you're looking at it from more of a functional standpoint, there are YouTube videos. To be honest with you, I know it sounds kind of corny, but at the end of the day, it's free information and it's right there in front of you. Take advantage of it. If you are looking for the actual mathematic function of those worksheets, my recommendation is get in touch with one of our accountants that are members here at the chamber.
Can I ask you to put the first slides on, so while you're asking questions, I can see what I missed? Thank
You
you.
didn't miss much.
I've always used the SWOTs when I did business plans.
What's that?
I've always used SWOT analysis for business plans.
Okay.
And then we did revisit them every year, but I did find that once we've gone through it, it kind of went into it. Because then we were putting out fires for the business. So how would you address that? Like, how would you solve that issue, not to have that plan? Because you do all the SWOTs, the business plan goes into the drawer. And you pull it up, oh, last year we said we were gonna do all this and we didn't do all
That's
this.
a great point.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Remind me, are you in a sole proprietorship?
Yes,
Okay.
email marketing.
Okay, so it's gonna be really simple. You want to schedule that as a customer appointment.
Right, and
You wanna
I do that in my calendar.
Make sure that you have that on there, that you are constantly, I can't force you to come back and visit it.
Right.
You have to be intentional. A lot of it is you just have to take personal ownership of it and say, you know what? The first Monday of the month, I'm gonna block out 8 to 10 in the morning, and I'm going to review and kind of take a temperature, effectively, of where we're at and how we're doing it and what needs to get done. I don't encourage anybody going through any amount of work or effort to not use it. So it's really important. And I'll be honest with you, I do that in my professional side. I schedule it, because if it is not on the schedule, it's not gonna happen. Julie?
Yeah, and I'll add to that, it's a fluid document, right? So once you get into your mind the SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as you're walking about in your life, you're gonna automatically see something that's gonna trigger you and say, wow, this is really a strength of mine. Oh my gosh, I got an opportunity here. So being a fluid document, you wanna check in with that at least quarterly. In bigger organizations, they have SWOT committees that are always looking at this, whether monthly, quarterly, or yearly. So depending on the size of your business, keep that in mind. But once you have the mentality of a SWOT, you're just gonna, it's natural to you. Like brushing your teeth. You'll be brushing your teeth, taking a shower. Oh my God, that's a threat of mine. So now, why is that a threat? Oh my God. So now you go into a Six Sigma thing, which maybe that would be a class.
Yep.
So now you're gonna define that, you're gonna measure, you're gonna analyze it, and that will be while you're going to your next meeting, drinking your coffee, and your brain is really thinking, and you have all these tabs open, because like Scott Sommer says, why do you have all these papers all the time in front of you? It's the brains.
Yeah.
But no, it becomes very natural. So don't be afraid of it. It's a great tool. It's a great resource for you to always look at.
And what you want to do is you want to move as much of your weaknesses and your threats over to your strengths and your opportunities. That's really, if you ever get to a point where I don't have any weaknesses. I don't have anything I can list. I don't have any threats. That's when you need to, in all seriousness, you need to pick up the phone and you need to call somebody and have them highlight where those are to make sure, because myself included, we all have them. And if you don't keep track of them,
For sure.
some of them, they just flat out cannot be eliminated. Okay, that's just reality.
Have you ever heard the term single source failure?
Single source of failure or single source failure?
We used to talk about that a lot in the hospital where I work. But I feel like as a solopreneur, I am a single source failure. And that's a weakness.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that? How do you move that to well, it's also a strength,
Yeah.
but how do you mitigate that risk?
Right. You are in an hourly billable environment, right?
Correct.
Okay, so as am I. So what I would always do is I would look at my weaknesses in any organization that I was ever involved with. If I can bring in a resource to address those weaknesses at a lower hourly rate than in which I was charging, that's what I'm doing. Because not only I now have the opportunity to be going out and accumulating more billable hours, someone else is most likely doing that portion of my job the right way and probably a lot quicker than I can do it. So I think that the big thing is to understand where are your weaknesses at and where can you bring in additional resources, generally on a contracted basis, to address those.
And so that addresses my actual weaknesses, which I am doing. However, what single source failure means to me, if I get up and I have, a case of the flu that sets me out for
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
What do I know you do.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, that's the single source failure. The company is effectively on hiatus for 2 weeks.
Same thing.
Yes.
Same
So, I don't know.
Can you not plan that if I get sick, I go into this mode where I do my emails, I'm sick, I don't want to give it to anybody, but it's my time now that I can build my action plan, reply to my emails.
Well, that's if I'm sick. But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
as a single source failure, anything happens to me,
Yeah,
things come to an abrupt halt.
yes, and particularly if you have deadlines that coincide with that, that's where the issue, what are you doing to address that, Deb?
For sure. Make a lot of phone calls and people know and they trust you and things will be resolved in
Yeah.
a week
Yeah,
or 2.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
yeah, it
What
is.
is
And-
something,
And I'll be honest with you, I think you hit the nail on the head. Most important thing is reach out to any of your deadlines that are going to be falling within that. I'm gonna make a very generalized statement. Most people should be pretty understanding that when they do, my accountant is a one-man show. My accountant is like coming up on, I think he won't say for sure, but I think he's coming up to like 90 years old. And I'm like, one of these days, and reality is, do you know how many accountants I've had in my life? One.
yeah.
And it's him, and that's why I stay with him, because he knows me personally. He's seen me go from cutting grass when I was in junior high and trying to manage all that all the way to where I'm at today. Yeah, if he goes away, it's a big problem. I'll understand, but where I'm leading is that that's something that I've accepted because he is a one-man show. Okay, so now, how could I solve that? I could switch to a larger firm that has multiple accountants, where the file could be just sent to another accountant within the firm. Downside for me, I'm gonna have to pay more. Because now I have to pay for buildings and advertising and a number of other things. So I went through this process in my head and said, hey, listen, I'm gonna use him, and I know that there are risks involved in doing so, but those are risks that I'm willing to accept so that I don't have to give up the intellectual capital that he has on me and save some money.
Leverage your multiple sources of income.
Yeah. Don't put all your eggs in the basket. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good questions.
One of the things that comes to mind for me too is if you have enough work and you really truly rely on that, potentially thinking about getting a virtual assistant,
Yep.
that if something does happen to you, at least they can kind of ride the wave for whatever that time is.
That at least knows what's going on in the business and who,
Right.
if I'm unable to respond to any of my clients, how they can reach out, sure.
So, something we always drive in the service industry, set the expectation. Let your customers know what is going on. Don't have to get into details. Hey, I'm sick, I'm out of commission. Who here has called an acquaintance, a business partner, anybody in your day-to-day business life? You leave them a message and you don't hear from them for 3 days. And then they call you back. Where have you been? I've been on vacation. I've been sick. I've been out doing this, that, or the other. Hi, you've reached the office of Scott Sommer. Please stop and listen to this message. I'm out of the office until February 4th. I will return your call at that time. Now the person knows, hey, I'm not going to expect a call back. Set the expectation with your customers. And it's very, very difficult to be upset in a situation like that. What other questions?
I'm sorry if I missed this, but what is your business? Sommer Associates.
So good question.
He's still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Which one am I still in?
Most press.
I specialize in in two primary things. I specialize in working with mid-sized companies on either improving or developing a service delivery model for them. Effectively, it's teaching them how to have good customer service and create a memorable customer experience within their own organization. It's not a mystery that service in general across all sectors is lacking. In fact, one of my goals before I die is I want to write a book titled The Negative Evolution of Customer Service. And effectively what it is as service continues to decline across every industry you can imagine, we as consumers, we expect less and less and less, and then we get delivered less and less and less. It's a proven fact. Customers will spend more money and they will be more loyal if they are receiving quality service. It's just a simple fact. And then the other side of it is leadership development. I help organizations with that. So, good question, thank you.
I have a good example.
Please.
Poor service.
Please.
But it's just like blew me away. So I had Postino's cater my holiday party. And my husband picked it up at Carolyn, brought it home. And it was supposed to have so many bruschettas. So I only got half of the bruschettas. Oh my God, but everything else was enough to feed everybody, thank goodness, because I told everybody, no, you don't have to bring any food. So I took a picture of it because I knew that I should. So then I contacted the catering department and I said, I was only received half of the order, just wanted to let you know. And the gal was like, oh no, let me check. So she checked, she goes, no, you received the right order. I go, well, I did take a photo, sent it to her. She goes, oh, she goes, yeah, you did only get half. Okay. She goes, we're so sorry, we'll send you a gift card for $50 to make it up. I'm like, that's fine, with nothing you can do, I want the bruschettas now. I waited a week, no, nothing in the mail. It started at December 4th, that's whatever. I wrote an email and said, hey, Nicolette, I haven't got the gift card. Oh, is this your right address? Yes, that's my address. Okay, well, we get it out this week. Waited another week. And my husband's at the point like, give it up. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. You signed up for this.
Yeah, teacher's girl something. I sent another email and I'm like, I still haven't got the gift card.
Yep.
She goes, oh, well, I don't know what's going on. This, again, my apologies. And I'm like, okay, I gotta go to somebody else because this isn't happening. So she goes, you can go pick it up at the restaurant. I'm like, no, I'm not driving to Carolyn. No, you mail me the gift card that you offered to mail me.
2 gift cards I'll drive up.
Yeah.
So how many people are in this room right now?
Yeah.
12 people. 12 people are in this room
Hearing about this.
that just heard this story.
Right.
I represent the Chamber of Commerce. We represent supporting all businesses. However, this is the danger when you fail to deliver service.
Yeah.
That's a situation where I would always encourage our customers, you flesh out the details later. When an issue has been presented to you, you address that issue, okay? Address it, resolve it with the customer, make sure that you understand clearly what the issue is, and then worry about the audit on the backside.
Right.
The last thing a customer wants is, hey, if I only received half my order, oh, hang on, let me see if it's sitting here. No. It's, I'm so sorry. What's your address? We're sending somebody right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just finish it, so of course I wasn't done. I was like, okay, I called Postino's restaurant yesterday, and I said, can I speak to you? Just got this guy cursed, I told him the whole story. I don't know what's wrong with her, that she doesn't know how to put a gift card in the mail. I gave her the correct address. I go, but someone should have knowledge of this, that she has done this, and made me kind of a mad customer. And he goes, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll give you a $50 gift card. You can pick it up in the restaurant anytime you want. I go, that's very nice of you, Chris, and I appreciate that. I go, but the reason I'm calling is because of what Nicolette didn't do. And what you're telling me is you're gonna give me a gift card, but Nicolette's gonna continue to piss off customers. And he's like, well, I'll mention it to somebody.
What they don't.
So what I figured out, their catering department has been farmed out.
What's the danger in that?
Yeah.
You're farming your brand out to somebody who has absolutely no allegiance to it.
Right, and I have my daughter's baby shower coming up. She goes, we should do Postinos. I'm like, no.
I'll give you a ton of my girlfriend just did Urbox, and they did a phenomenal Urbox.
It is 9:44, so.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, I would love to stay, but
Thank you, Scott, so much
You
for
bet.
your presentation.
You bet, you bet, you bet.
Have a great flight.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.